Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Couple of housekeeping things. Well, let's hear from our Vice President about reporting out of closed session.
Sure. The board did meet in closed session this evening in regards to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, Public Employment Title Principal, Samarin High School. It was an informational meeting only.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to number 7, but I'd first like to announce that Trustee Scott will not be with us this evening. She's handling a family medical emergency. And so before, yes, Trustee
I'd like to
Miller.
make a motion to excuse Trustee Scott for medical reasons.
Okay. First and a second, get that, Gladys? All in favor? Passes 6-0, 1 absent. Thank you very much. So with that in mind, there's an agenda item. Prior to approving the agenda, I'd like to propose that we pull an item 13G, which is approval to add San Jose Middle School air conditioning. And I'd like to pull that, and I really don't want to do that, but I think in fairness to Trustee Scott, who is very interested in being involved with the discussion about that item, that we put it off until the August, what's the next board meeting? 6th, or the 8th? August 8th meeting. So I know there are a lot of people that came who may come this evening to talk to this, and I would welcome them, since I'm going to suggest we pull this, item G, that they will be able to talk during non-agenda public comment during that period, as well as people may be showing up, and I'm aware of this, probably around 8:20 or 8:30, that I would allow them to speak then at about that period of time around there, wherever we are, we'll allow them to speak. So I apologize for that, but I think that's the best thing. Okay, Trustee Mack?
Yes, sir. Just to clarify, as you were, because I know you were talking about this, but by doing this, it does not affect the timeline for implementing AC if we decide to do it.
That's very accurate, yes. And I should clarify that, and thank you for bringing that up. This item was never approved for construction this summer. It was always, in my memory, it was going to be taking place, and construction was going to be taking place in summer 2018. That if we discuss this and decide whatever we're going to do on the August 8th meeting, we'll still have time, staff will have time to meet that deadline and implement during summer 2018, if in fact that's what we decide to do. Trustee Miller?
You covered the issue. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody understood implications.
So board members, if with that in mind, if I could get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda with that pulling item 13G. Yes. Trustee Miller, I think you were first.
Okay, so I'll move the order of business this evening, all items except item 13G, which will be moved to the first meeting in August.
Very well. I have
I
a first.
second
Thank
that.
you. A second.
I second the motion.
Trustee Aguilar, all in favor? That passes 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much. Public comment on consent agenda. I don't see any blue cards. If anyone would like to speak to any item on tonight's agenda, please come forward with a slip of blue paper and give it to Gladys over here. And I think they're out in the foyer or right here on the table. Is this consent or? No? Okay. Okay. So approval of the consent agenda?
I would like to pull item T, and
T, hold on.
that's the telecommunications. Sean's available to give us a little background on it. If we could pick up that item separately, I would
T.
appreciate it, so we can.
I'm item L. That's a
Okay.
recusal.
Thank you, Trustee Miller.
It's a recusal for me. I have to recuse myself from that. There's a conflict of interest.
Okay.
L.
Yes, L.
So I think, anyone
Make-
else have anything to, no?
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda excluding item L and excluding item T, and I'll move all the rest of the items.
All right, very good. First and a second, did you get those? Derek,
Here, yeah.
all in favor? That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent. And then, Sean, or let's vote on item L.
Yeah.
Let's take a vote on that. She's just going to recuse herself. So all in favor, or a motion, please, for item L.
I'll move to accept consent item L.
Rush things along. Okay, first and a second. Trustee Aguilar, all in favor? Passes 5 in favor, 1 recusal, and 1 absence. Okay. So now, the other item, if we could, get Sean to come up.
Item T,
Item T. And Trustee Miller.
so there's some costs here on it, and there's actually two pieces that Sean and I have had conversations about. One is capacity, and one is reliability, and I'll let Sean speak to those 2 points.
Well, so we're trying to address our internet needs really in a tactical way and a strategic way. We have an immediate need for more bandwidth. We're currently exceeding our 1 gig pipe that we have to the internet through MCOE, and that's only going to get worse when we hand out the 2,000 Chromebooks next fall. So we're addressing the immediate need for more bandwidth for a bigger pipe, basically. But the part we're not really addressing with this is really redundancy, resilience, reliability, because we're still just going to have one connection. So we have one data circuit that connects us to MCOE. MCOE then has their connection to the scenic ring, which they provide then support to all the districts in the county. So the MCOE has a 10 gig connection serving and that's available for all 19 school districts. So they're going to be a bit oversubscribed as time moves on as well. So we're looking at a few different options. The one that you're voting on tonight is really just sort of a tactical response to the immediate need for bandwidth. And so we're taking our existing pipe and we're increasing it from 1 gig to 4 gigs. And that's being done through the CalNet 3 contract. That contract is it's negotiated statewide for school districts, and so we get extremely aggressive pricing, and the pricing is actually even more aggressive because AT&T is trying to get everybody off of their old infrastructure, and that's what we're on, the old infrastructure. So they're kind of incentivizing that. So that's good, but again, we're not really addressing the longer term. So there are some challenges to that. E-rate, which heavily subsidizes our internet access, is only available for, like, you can't have redundant circuits, which is what we would have to have in order to have that kind of network resiliency. So there's different ways to approach it, and one of the ways that Ross and I have been talking about with the county of Marin and with the Smart Train folks, and there's actually a lot of players in this, is there is the possibility of getting a dark fiber ring set up throughout the county and getting school districts on it, and so that you can imagine that's going to be a longer-term project, and that wouldn't help us this fall. But we're hoping over the course of the next 4 or 5 years that this actually could become a reality. And it's something that we've been talking to the county about for a while. But now with the Smart Train, there's some availability for fiber, and it's actually it's a very exciting project. So, and that would help us with both resiliency, because the idea would be to set it up on a ring, so that if a line gets cut, you just route it the other way. And so that would be the ideal situation. And there are other counties that have already done this. We set up a ring like this in San Francisco Unified when I was there, and then Ventura County is actually in the middle of doing one as well. But ideally, that's the way we want to set things up, and that's the longer term goal. So
Great.
So I wanted to thank Sean for getting us covered for the opening of school. And if you look carefully at the item, it actually costs less it's a cost savings coming to us, not a cost expense for this immediate issue. It, however, doesn't really move us forward. The more and more schools depend upon always-on access, as reliable as being able to turn the light switch on and off. And our internet, I mean, there are backhoes in Nevada, and they do dig up fiber periodically, and we've had some outages, so clearly we need a more reliable solution, but immediately we need open school. So I just wanted a little of that background so everybody had heard it. And with that, I would make a motion to approve item T. It's a cost savings, basically.
So
at this point.
consent item T, first by Miller, trustee Mack is the second, all in favor? That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent.
Sean,
Thank you all
Thank
very
you,
much.
Sean, very much. And trustee Miller, I just want to say, I appreciate your involvement in this because this is your business and you know what, you know kind of a good direction that we should go, and appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, on to announcements, board and superintendent. And I'm going to, since there are no student trustees here tonight, we'll start with trustee Miller.
No announcements for this evening. Thank you very much.
Trustee, no.
I just let everyone know that I met with the school fuel board again yesterday afternoon, and we discussed their upcoming grant ideas and the meeting that they did have with staff here at the district. And they are going to have a full-day retreat coming up in the latter part of July, which I will not attend. So I won't be part of that process deliberately. And they'll come up with an objective and some ideas, and they'll get back to us with that.
Okay, thanks. Trustee Aguilar?
Just that 4th of July parade is coming along. I know we've been invited by Miguel to be with him, and I really appreciate it. I've always go with the Blue Ribbon Coalition, and that's just I support both of you, so I need to find out what time you will be doing it and what time the Blue Ribbon will be doing it, and I might go twice. So, just know that I support you, and that anybody that wants to help also with, I don't know if you need help, but with the Blue Ribbon, we're always looking for volunteers. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. And that is a good reminder to all of us that the 4th of July parade would be great if we could all show strong support for Miguel. And I'm sure details are forthcoming, right, Gladys? Trustee Mack?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Trustee Butler? And I have nothing. Superintendent Hogaboom?
A couple quick things. So, Mark Sims, we met in closed session, will be the principal of San Marin High School, and he's been, came up on Monday, and he's been meeting with staff, and we'll be meeting with community members and parents and students, so it's great to have him on board. Secondly, we've hired Karen Valentine as our new coordinator of student services, so we're excited about that, and she'll actually be at our retreat on Thursday. So Thursday, our last end-of-the-year retreat for administrators will be at Meraki over in San Francisco. So Meraki is kind of a networking systems thing that Sean could explain in more detail, that was bought out by Cisco. So they've invited us and they're hosting us. The reason we're going there is to kind of see what the office of the future looks like. It's kind of like Facebook or Google. So I want our principals to see what that looks like, and also to talk to them about some of the things they're looking for with their employees that they're hiring now, and also to kind of see what the workplace looks like and to look at what that culture is like at that office. So pretty excited about that. And then today, Yvonne and I joined Julia and Cindy Klinkman and Mark Sims and Matt Baldwin down at Stanford. We're Cali, which is where we're working on our math initiative, focusing on math discourse. They had kind of an end-of-the-year summary. Just to remind you, that's a 3-year grant that we participate in. 2 middle school teachers, 2 high school teachers. Mark and Matt are going to join that group with some instructional coaches. So again, they're focusing on kind of a vision and the content and the processes for how do we really pay more attention to get kids those critical thinking skills in math. And we'll be coming up with a report for you guys about that in August. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And now we're on to a non-agenda public comment, and I do have one person who'd like to speak, and Stephanie Johnson. if you're, thank you, and welcome.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Johnson, and I am here on behalf of the Matter of the Movement of the CEC classroom at Novato High. My issue with the situation is specifically for myself and the students in the classroom of the CEC program. I understand both points of view, but for me personally, it bothers me because I feel like our special ed kids and our CEC students aren't really heard, and I am here to address that. But my point is, my whole senior project was on how beneficial this classroom is to our students in our classroom, and each year our classroom goes bigger and bigger, and our kitchen area supports the students who have social anxiety and who are afraid to go out to the cafeteria to eat lunch and be around other people. And our learning area has been super beneficial because honestly, before my senior project, it was really hard to focus, but it's been super easier. And then our lounge area is for students who are having anxiety attacks in the middle of class, who need to separate themselves from other students and other assignments and just take a moment to gather themselves together. And this classroom is super beneficial for us because, well, for myself especially, because I've been there since the first day of the opening of the program, and last year in 2016, my apologies. And honestly, if it wasn't for this program and this classroom that has helped me so much, I honestly would have dropped out of high school a long time ago. And I know how much this classroom means to me and other students and other counselors and teachers involved in the special ed department. And I really hope that I could possibly change anyone's minds on the movement, even though I understand that the school needs that room for other English departments or classes. But personally, I feel in my heart that students in our program won't come to school if we're moved, because a lot of students have abandonment issues and issues with moving, and myself especially, it gives me anxiety to know that it feels basically like we're being kicked out of our own home. And I don't know if any of you know what that feels like, but it's a very strong feeling, and I really hope I could change some of your minds on this matter, because this classroom is very important to us.
Thank you, Stephanie, for coming tonight. Appreciate your comments. All right, trustees, we're to our first staff report of this evening, and Healthy Novato is here to talk about their Healthy Novato initiative update, and Yvonne will kick it off. Welcome.
Okay, good evening. I would like to invite our partners from the Healthy Novato Initiative to come on up. We're going to try to make this fairly quick, as we know we have a full agenda. So good evening, Board of Trustees. Thank you, President Cooper. So very exciting year with the Healthy Novato Initiative. Before we go on, we want to thank Peter E. Haas Jr. Family Fund and also Veronica Reed, who's the chair of the fund. Without their support, all this great work that we're doing for our students would not be possible. So I do want to thank them for their support and continued support that we have going forward for our students. I also want to thank our partners, the Healthy Novato Initiative leadership team who are here tonight, all of the directors from the different agencies, our different nonprofits. We have the Y, Novato Youth Center, Youth Leadership Institute, North Bay Security Group, and Novato Blue Ribbon Coalition for Youth. So this year we began almost 12 months ago in August with our first meeting. We meet the first Thursday of every month at 7:30 a.m. in our superintendent's conference room, and we really focus a lot on our graduate profile. So our focus has been supporting the graduate profile, specifically the 3 social skills, conscientious learner, cultural competence, and character. So what we've been doing is aligning our practices, our activities to support these social skills. So what we've done is we've created different matrices where we're looking at common activities that we're doing. So tonight, you're gonna hear some of those activities that we're doing around these three social skills. As you know, the academic skills above collaboration, communication, critical thinking are ones that we're developing rubrics and really assessing in the classroom. Again, our teachers and schools are addressing all six, and our focus is specifically these three social skills and all the activities that we do. I also want to thank Evie, who was here tonight. As you know, when Lynn Erickson left about January, Evie definitely stepped up and helped take the leadership role and assist me as I was also doing some student services as well. So I do want to thank Evie for coming on up, and I just also want to congratulate her because she just got her administrative credentials. So that's a great success for Evie. All right, so Evie's going to take us through here. So come on up, Evie.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. That's very nice of you. So stepping into the expanded role, I can definitely see how the Healthy Novato goals fold very nicely into the graduate profile. The Healthy Novato goals, as you can see for yourself, they encompass community engagement, so parents, students, community members, community agencies, pulling on all of those resources and getting them together to help students make healthier choices. So those fit very nicely into those 3 C's of the skills. The large part of the Healthy Novato goals, too, number 3 is probably sort of the guts of it, to build trust among the youth and the adults. So we use a variety of resources and agencies to help pull that together for us in the schools. So the Healthy Initiative, our driving question is, how can we, as a Healthy Novato leadership team, continue to deepen our work together and collaborate on common activities focused on the 3 social skills? So I invite Bill Welsh from North Bay Security.
Good evening. So 4 years ago, I was part of the Healthy Novato Initiative. They gave me a matching grant with the Nevada Unified School District to bring a drug counselor on. And I appreciate the vision that you folks had and the support from Peter Ha's family. And this year, we actually, I had split the position 2 years ago, where there's a drug counselor and also a gal that does presentations between 5th and 8th grade. And she did 105 presentations between the fall and the spring regarding bullying and social media awareness, decision-making, peer pressure, and alcohol and drug awareness. And then my drug counselor saw 75 students and also did group activities and started an AA at Marin Oaks. So this position has been fabulous. I also partner with the YLI. We're starting to do a leadership in 5th grade. They already have 9th grade or 8th grade and 12th grade. And we also work with the district court and peer court with the YMCA. And a lot of times we'll be having our counselor meet with the mental health staff, including Nevada Youth Center. So we are a strong partner with all the other folks here. And I appreciate all the support from the board and from all the entities that are here this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, next from YLI, also known as Youth Leadership Institute, Anna Salem. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you all so much for inviting us to come tonight and being able to talk about some of the work that we get to do here in your district. My name is Anna Salem, and I'm the Marin Program Manager for Youth Leadership Institute, also known as YLI. YLI started 26 years ago in Marin County, and over the course of the 26 years, we've expanded across the state. We have offices in Fresno County, San Mateo County, San Francisco County. Yeah, we run about 70 different programs across those 4 offices, and we run 3 specifically in Novato Unified. So we run the Friday Night Live program, which is in high school, focuses on substance abuse prevention for young people, Club Live in middle school, and the student advisory councils. So all across all these 3 different programs, they attract different students and run differently, but they all have the same kind of core components, right? And we do that to ensure that all of our students get high quality programming and also to ensure that all of our students are getting the evidence-based youth development practices that we run. So those core components fall into three kind of categories. One is community building, capacity to building leadership skills, as well, and then they engage in some kind of youth participatory action research. So that can be surveys, that's neighborhood assessments, it can look different depending on their campaign. And they take that research, they look around their community, look around their schools, and they figure out what do they want to work on, what do they care about, and they develop a campaign to address some of the problems that they see. So I just threw a list together of some of the campaigns we ran this year, which includes some peer-to-peer education around effects of marijuana. We run that at Marin Oaks. We worked on improving school climate for LGBTQ students. And we've also done this year, we reduced trying to work on reducing the stigma around mental health on the middle school site. So those are just some of the campaigns we run. I'm very excited. We've been piloting this year the student advisory councils in a few of the school sites, and I'm really thrilled that we're going to be expanding that work next year to all of the secondary school sites, as well as at the 5th grade with North Bay Security Group. Just wanted to let you know about that because you will actually feel the impact of that. We're going to be running those student advisory councils on all the secondary school sites, and we're also going to be running one that's district-wide. That's going to be taking representatives from all the schools, as well as supporting the student reps who sit on your school board, so they can actually be trained to engage and supported to engage in the conversation, right? So they don't just have to update you all, but they'll have a body of students that they can talk to about what's coming across the agenda, and so they can speak with some kind of assurance and some authenticity about how do students actually feel about the issues that are coming forward. So I'm hoping that it will actually be a service to you all as you continue your work, but I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Next, we're going to have Cheryl come on up and speak to Novato Youth Center as well as Novato Blue Ribbon.
Thank you, Yvonne. I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge how important this initiative is for those of you who've been on the trustee board for a number of years. You may recall that the Healthy Novato Initiative started because a young person passed away in our community due to drug and alcohol effects. And so what happened was Pete Hawes and his wife decided to give back to the community, and he started this initiative. And really, they made a 10-year commitment to changing the way in which we are serving youth and families and protecting them against underage drinking. So we're pretty fortunate to have someone who's really investing in our community in this way. And so we're all appreciative and appreciative for being here. And Maria serving on our Blue Ribbon Coalition is very helpful. And I do hope you show up at the parade as well, and we'll see you there, Miguel. So the Youth Center has been involved since the inception, like NUSD and many partners, and we are involved with the 3 Cs, and this year we actually are expanding the Promotores program. So many of you may recall that that is a community health workers model. It's a volunteer model where people are trained in their community to basically invite their neighbors and friends in to have conversations, and in this case it's about drug and alcohol use. And so our Promotores director Berta goes out and does a lot of community outreach through Cafecitos in the home, or we have a 3-session parenting class that happens at the youth center, and then we also work through Novato Blue Ribbon and support that work. In terms of character, as one of the C's, this year we added some training for all the Blue Ribbon partners called motivational interviewing training. And basically the concept is elicit, provide, elicit, and it's many of you have probably worked in sales. It's sort of how do you engage someone with where they're at and how do you motivate them to have change behavior. So it's basically training the people that we work with so that they can have effective, their parents can have effective conversations with their kids and change the way in which they're having conversations around drug and alcohol use. And so we had one round of training this year, and we're going to have more training next year. And in terms of conscientious learner, we're appreciative to be your subcontractor to provide mental health counseling on 6 of the school sites. And then as well, you know that the Novato Teen Clinic moved to the Marin Community Clinics, and that remains open on Mondays for all teens at no cost. And while all of us are partners in Novato Blue Ribbon, I was elected to do this section. So thank you. So this year, Haas gave us funding to conduct 3 campaigns, and it's pretty amazing. We did a marijuana educational campaign. We reached 10,000 people in our target market, which is mostly Novato parents and guardians and grandparents. Then we did a superhero bully prevention campaign in the fall by handing out wristbands at the Scream on the Green event. And then we just finished our 5-week Adults Don't Be a Party to Teen Drinking campaign, and we reached 33,000 people. And you may have seen it on the bus stop ads as well. That actually reached over, I think it was almost 2 million people, and of our target market, around 500,000 people in Novato saw the bus stop ads that are Novato parents and guardians and grandparents. So we're very fortunate to have funding, and I just want to thank Kiosk. They gave us a substantial in-kind donation to be able to run the campaigns like we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'd like to invite Tim to come on up from the Y.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here. My name is Tim Bird, and I'm the Executive Director for the Marin and Novato YMCAs. And our restorative justice program really supports the 3 social skills, the 3 C's of the graduate profile, through conscientious learner. It's really about, this is a peer-led program, so it really is about individuals promoting self-advocacy, reflection on what they've done and the harm or the infraction that they've had, cultural competence. It's really developing equity and their understanding equity and civic engagement, and then character, really developing skills in empathy, respect, and then taking personal responsibility for what they've done. Our program is really into 3 components to prevent school suspension. Peer court, which is used for 6th through 12th graders, and it's provided on the school campus. And it's used for individuals or students that have provided, for small infractions or school disciplinary issues or violations. It's usually held at the lunchtime hour, and again, it's a peer-led program. New this year, we've brought in the district court, which is a little more, for violations a little more serious, such as fighting, and we're actually working in collaboration with North Bay Security with this. Next year, we're excited because we want to bring in a parent component. We've heard that parents really need to understand or be more involved in how do we engage the parents in some of the disciplinary process. And then third, we have the elementary school restorative justice program, which is really targeted for the 5th graders. And it's really, again, around school disciplinary issues or violations, but really helping them create that voice and understand the school culture and helping change the community. Again, the program is really an option to divert the violations through a peer-to-peer restorative process. And it really is about keeping the kids in the schools and connected to the school community. That's it.
Well, thank you very much. So at this time, we would like any questions or comments for anyone from our Healthy Novato initiative team.
Well, that was great. Thank you all for being here, Yvonne. Board members, comments, questions? Trustee Nell, did you have?
Well, besides thanking you all for being here and all the wonderful work that you do for us, I also want to compliment you for being allied and working together. You are, in many ways, separate organizations and agencies, but you do set aside your, the independence and work together well. So I just wanted to recognize that collaboration that you do for us. So respect that. And I guess I am curious to find out more about the district court idea, but rather than go into something elaborate tonight, maybe just a little more information on how we're going to address the older students and bringing in parents and what more serious offenses are.
I think we were trying to align something.
Oh, you have to come to you can come to the mic. Remember, you're on TV here.
The district's court started this year really as we looked at school violations that were a little more serious than just disciplinary issues. And so we wanted to make them a little more serious and have them actually held here at the district office. And really what we wanted to do this year was bring in the parent component and have them more involved with that. And that's weren't able to really flush it out this year, but next year is our goal is to have these held quarterly where parents are involved. They come in, they understand, receive some of the education that you've seen from the other partners around teen behaviors and what to expect. And so that's really what we want to bring in, and bringing the parents, helping them navigate the teen years just as much as their teens are navigating the years themselves.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, one of our charges from the state is to increase our community involvement and engagement, and I think it's another way, and I look forward to seeing it implemented in action, so
Well,
appreciate
I
it.
invite you to the district court next year. We'll let you know when it is.
We'd all like to be there.
Please do.
Yep. Trustee Aguilar?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you for you guys for coming. I know by experience that this is a great team. It's just amazing to see so many partnerships, the Y, the Nevada Youth Center, North Bay Security, and the Blue Ribbon and Youth Leadership Institute, and just all these different partnerships getting together, and it's all about the kids and focusing on marijuana and alcohol and bullying, and it's just amazing. I'm always amazed of the hard work and dedication that this team puts together. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, trustees, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. I just wanted to make a quick comment. The student advisory councils our student board members will be involved with that, and I wondered if there's anything you need from us or some input, to
Thank
please
you.
reach out to us.
Yeah, I can reach out to you individually, but I would love some additional support. And we are working at the school set level. The principals or vice principals are serving as the adults ally. And Superintendent Hogaboom has been amazing and offering to come to the district level and meet with them once a quarter.
Yep.
And if we would invite you all to come and actually talk to the young folks. And if there's anything that you're particularly interested in, we invite you to come and I can get it on their
Good.
agenda.
Good, thank
Yeah,
you very
thank
much.
you.
And I want to say also a big thanks to Peter E. Haas, Family Fund. He's been huge in this district and huge for this community in general, so thank you.
And Leslie's looking at us. She wants to take a picture to recognize. So can you just come up to the front real quick
Well,
here? That's
come on
okay?
Yeah, come on up. Cheryl, come on. Right here, Cheryl.
We're not in it.
No, not for us.
Nice job, that was really good.
Hey, Yvonne, that was a wonderful job, thank you. And, you have one on, good, okay. Thank you. All right. So we're gonna move on to our second update from this evening. And it's the second staff, it's an update from kiosk, and I know we're so excited, right?
I know. So we're just going to, President
this.
Cooper, we're going to jump right into it and ask
Good.
Jim Stevens, who is the Executive Vice President of Creative Strategy at Kiosk, and one of their designers, Christina Cudgel, and she is one of their designers, as I said, but she's also a Nevada.
Yeah. Yes. Can I try this?
Is it up and down? No, you might have to scroll a bit.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Hi, everybody. I was here last meeting, and we went through the creative brief, and I told you what we would do with that creative brief was then give it to these creative people, designers, and her team. And now we're going to show you, Christina's going to present them all. I just wanted to mention that there are words that they're designing too. You can't do everything in one logo. So we grouped it into an innovative and active idea of a logo, open-minded and friendly, and one that's about caring and warm.
All right, so we're gonna go through these real quick, and then hopefully, if we have time at the end, we have a slide where you can see all of them, and maybe we have some time for comments or feedback. It'd be great. Okay, so this first one, direction one, is unique, and for this one, we really wanted to emphasize the unified part of the district, and not only the unified, but you, the individual, is unique, standing out. The district's there to support you, but it's really about you, the individual.
So what we liked about this, what they did graphically, was that there was a way to call out other aspects of our innovation being unexpected, being unified, unstoppable, unique. So there's a real concept behind just the fact that it's, why is that offset in the graphic? And so that's how that would be communicated.
Especially with you guys kind of breaking the mold of everything you're doing compared to other districts out there. Yeah. And then we also want to show it in some context just so you guys can get a better sense of it, not just up on a slide.
You're seeing conceptually what these will be. There will be further refinement for photography, color, topography.
Yeah. So black and white applications. And then also, you know, it could be in color, it could match the school color, bring it to kind of life.
You know, we know we have many 14 or 13 schools, and that this would allow them to do things with the U that relates to their colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, you know, if it's on a letterhead, you can also have the mark or just Novato Unified School District all written out. All right, so the second direction is leaning towards this whole idea of the North Star. You know, everyone has their individual path, and so this next application is kind of this nice, bold, simple stamp to kind of put, and everyone kind of brings together this nice column, unified. I love that stamp. Kind of like points you to your North Star. Bold. And then of course you could do it NUSD by itself.
So we're looking at it internally. You may want to use NUSD more, everyone who knows the district.
Mm-hmm.
So external communications, you might want to spell out the whole name.
All right. So for this one, I'm really excited about. Well, so because I'm a Novato High grad, you know, I've known that logo, you know, the cutout hands. So I'm like, this is my opportunity. What would this look like if I took that logo and it was made today? So this is kind of our modern, innovative take on your old logo, or soon to be old logo.
There it is.
So yeah. So it's still a star, but you also have people coming together. It's community with the colors showing diversity. It's showing all the different paths the students have.
I like the idea too that as we get more and more digital in the school district, looking to the future, this will be a interesting thing to be able to animate and really bring to life the innovation that's going on.
Yeah.
And then I thought what was nice the team did is they pulled out unified as a color that accents what brings us all together.
Yeah.
Old versus new.
Yeah, that's just to show that it was based on a previous concept but refreshed to be more innovative. Didn't lose the caring though, I think. Hold on to that. And that's when it's the simple lockup with NUSD.
Yeah. And so this last one was, I had this idea of how can I have a logo that works by itself but can also work with all the other schools. So every year you guys are just doing all these great initiatives and growing exponentially. So you want to go ahead and scroll. So it's kind of putting a stamp on the district, you know. Yeah, go ahead. So the district is kind of this framework, and you have it hold together. You're thinking outside of the box. It kind of has this transparent feel to it. Some alternative fonts, just in case.
Serif versus sans serif.
But what I really like about this concept is you can take these icons and put it behind it, so it could be the school mascot or the topic you're talking about on a brochure. So it's really flexible.
kind of shows the district is there to support every school, but lets them kind of do their own thing. Yeah, out of the box, yeah.
What I did like about this that was Christina was very thoughtful about. She heard, I think she was in the focus groups listening with when I was conducting them, and she heard that the superintendent was encouraging and the administrators were talking about each school is being allowed to kind of bring their culture out with what their parents and teachers and students want. And she said this was a way to kind of look through to what each school was doing.
Yeah.
So you see, there they all are. Again, colors are not particularly, they're not decided upon. That would be the next phase. There would be further refinement. We'd probably put it in context of a web homepage and letterhead and things like that.
All right, so. This is pretty exciting. You come to these board meetings anytime. This is great. This is something new and exciting. Superintendent?
So I really want to thank you guys because I think you did focus groups and really listened to people and really captured a lot of different cool ideas. So they brought these to cabinet. There originally were 6, and we kind of nixed 2 of them. So really, we'd like to get your input and ideas as they'll move forward and kind of narrow things down a little bit. So we just want your initial thoughts and ideas and input on what you guys think about these.
So trustees, what fun, starting off at the end there. Trustee Miller?
We have a whole bunch of different programs. It's athletics or Nobels or ROTC or athletic program, and they all end up with these separate little identities. And we've talked about this. In fact, in the process of not having a good central theme, all the other sort of distract from the uniformity, or not the uniformity, the common purpose that the school district has. And so that's, in my view, half of the challenge is to find a way to make all of those different voices come together and publish I think Derek knows about these language better, a set of rules that everybody follows so that the image people in this town and start seeing us as a unified culture moving forward. And in that, I'm first. It's nice to see down in the lower left-hand corner where clearly you're a Novato High graduate, and I sort of get why you like that one best. I mean, that gold N that Novato has used has been a iconic. You see it on the back windows of cars. Between that and the cat's paw from Marin Catholic, it's pretty solid. So I like that. I would be interested in a conversation, maybe not tonight, but media is transforming. It's not print media anymore. It's online, and with GIFs you can make something move, even though it's static in the website. There's some mobility opportunities that I'd be interested to see what your thinking is about how we can take advantage of that. So we have a solution that helps us for how media will be presented 10 years from now, not just today. And clearly this is something you think about a lot more than I do. But I'm interested in that how does it play in all the different venues that we would be using at branding. And back to my first point, I am concerned that we find something that can overlay what we're doing now that builds a uniformity. There's my comments, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. And I think let's go get some comments and then maybe give some, whatever strikes your fancy, whichever one or two you like or not, or whatever. Anyone else have comments? Ross, why don't we just do that? We'll start with you, and how about the top 2? Is that good?
I would take the lower left and the upper right.
Lower left, upper right.
From here.
That's exactly. So you've got 1 vote. Trustee. All right, Trustee Nell. You could do whatever you want. Trustee Nell.
For you, it was 2.
Trustee Nell.
All 4.
You've got to rank them, and then we're going to quiz you in a while which way you ranked them. Just the top 2, please.
Top 2, you're asking for me?
Yes.
Well, we'd like to hear your thoughts, too.
No, I learned a long time ago in the business I'm in is I have no taste and no opinion.
Sure.
If you want 100,000 to look like that, I'll make you 100,000 that'll look like that. So, no, actually, I appreciate the work you did. I can see the thought that you put into it, and we have got to do something. So I'm serious about that, and I like color. I think color needs to be brought into the system. So I'm ranking them 1, 2. I'm top right, lower right.
Lower right or?
The others can have color. We actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some application tests and things like that. It's going to be really the circulation and some sometimes everybody thinks it looks great, but then you got to use it, and so we got to see how it turns out after we use it.
Thank you. Your comments are valuable. Trustee Aguilar?
This is great. Thank you so much for doing this. My first choice would be the one with the colors. It just shows unity, shows it's colorful, but it's also shows the just the different diversity, you know. So I really like that. That's my first choice. So I like the 3, the bottom, the blue bottom right, and then the bottom left. But if I have to pick between the bottom 2, I would say the one with the N outside the square. But I also like the blue one. So
You're entitled.
It's incredible how it's simple it is. It seems like it's simple. It's a simple design, but yet it says a lot. So yeah, I really like those 3.
Trustee Mack?
Thank you, Christina. I haven't seen Christina in ages since she was at Novato High. But anyway, congratulations. Great job. This is great stuff. I'm going to be an outlier here. I mean, I'm good with the upper right one. I like that one a lot too. I especially like the motion capabilities of it. Watching it spin would be very cool. But I like the upper left one because of the U. I can do so much with that U. You, unity, us, everything. So I really like the U popping out, and that has motion capabilities too, where it's in and then it slides out, and all kinds of color capabilities as well for individual campuses. So I just want to give that one some props too. I almost like the combination of the top 2, where you have the NUSD with the spinning. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's me, the weirdo.
That's not weird. That's good. Trustee Butler?
I like the top 2. The top 2. I first like the bottom left, but I like the top 2. I like that U standing out on its own. I like the color lines, circles, whatever represents diversity of our district, unity, as you state. I like the unified standing out, bolded out there, and spelling NUSD down because we all talk acronyms, obviously. So I like that stacked version of Nevada Unified School District. I think that one's my number 1 choice.
The upper right?
Not I think, that is my upper, yeah.
Okay.
The upper right.
I think probably my first choice would be the lower left, and then my second choice. And the only reason I say that is because going back a couple slides where you did the nth degree, you had different colored icons in the square, and I really, really like that. So I think that's what for me, the nth degree would be my first choice, and unity, that icon, and so forth would be my second choice. And so now that you've heard from all of us, and what you've already heard from the superintendent, what's the kind of the next step here? What's going to happen? What do we need to do? What are we going to, milestones, et cetera? Oh, look at you. And we haven't spoken today.
So you just went to Novato High, so how to recap. We will narrow what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We will, well, Leslie has the votes here. We'll probably talk to all of your group. But I think what you're bringing up is that the true test of this is taking what we think is really strong and then now starting to apply it in context. And that's when we'll really be able to tell. Motion will suggest The next assignment will be take an MSA or one of the other sub-brand logos and start showing how can we take ownership of what's going on in those places. I do like that what they came up conceptually is further enhanced and strengthened when we have programs like MSA and STEM and things, because it's like there's Novato unified, showing innovation. So we would show you that, and we'd probably even show you classic brand identity for letterheads and all the other
Business
purposes
cards,
that you
yeah.
have. So I think once you see that in context, it probably won't be for all 4 logos. We would also start to recommend color. We stayed away from green and gold. We stayed away from black and gold. We will continue to stay away from that. But we would recommend final colors and typography. That would be recommended for websites and posters. And in the end, it's what Ross was talking about. We will have a brand guidelines document that we hand over to.
Perfect, yeah.
Circulate and make sure people are starting to make it all look the same.
Tom? May I
Trustee
make one
Miller,
comment?
yep, sure.
Novato across this county is known for the diversity of programs we offer. If historically it was a essentialist school or it's a charter school, we have I think only 2 charter schools in the county of Marin. Maybe there's 3 now, but we were first. This community has value in those. We have an ROTC program when others don't. We have an MSA program when others don't. There's many programs that have gone through. We have strings at the elementary school. They're learning to play mandolin? No. Ukuleles instead of recorders, which is a more demanding musical skill set. We've done many, many, many things, and that part of this community is deep. It's decades deep. It's generations deep. And if we can keep that kind of sense of, which I think you talked about, which is here's the overall logo, but here's the sub-program, and it doesn't lose its identity, but it becomes part of a whole, that would be great, in my opinion. So.
All right, thank you. Any other trustees' comments? No? Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to our last staff report, a report on Marin Schools Insurance Authority Investment Program. Yancey will be presenting that. Hello?
Hi, thank you. I'll be brief. We were a member of the Marin Schools Insurance Authority, which for what we participate in is workers' compensation is the largest, but also dental and vision health insurance that we buy through them. And I just thought it was important to give you, the trustees, some information about the funds that are kept on our behalf in that organization. So the memo is in the board packet. Those are being split between the state LAIF fund and $18 million in management by Chandler Asset Management. Just to make sure, to be clear, this is the 19 school districts in Marin, and it's holding, for the most part, money that is being set aside as a liability to pay out insurance claims, the biggest one being our workers' compensation claims, which can have 25-plus year money that needs to be paid out in them. So I just wanted to add this and note that I will be doing this annually to give you an update on where the money is being held. The most important thing, I think, is that the investment policy, the 4 notes, the number one item, this is very similar to our county policy, but preservation of capital is the number 1 investment strategy, and then down to maintenance of sufficient liquidity, diversification, and the last one is an attainment of market rate of return. So we don't see a huge retain, but that's important because these are insurance funds. These need to be held for claims that have to be paid in the going out. So I just wanted to send that to you and see if you had any questions.
Okay, thank you. Trustees, Trustee Noel?
Well, I appreciate you bringing this forward, and it's a good idea to keep an eye on this sort of thing because often the rule of thumb, when these kind of a double-edged sword, I guess I'm saying it's a good thing that we are in a cooperative
Yep.
But at the same time, we are also the largest district in this group. So you need to keep an eye on it, because sometimes the tail can wag the dog. And that wouldn't be to our advantage. And I would much prefer, as the gorilla in the room, that we have an influence on these funds and keep an eye on them and control them as much as possible, seeing as how most of the dollars invested in them belong to us. So I appreciate you bringing it forward, and it is something we should be aware of. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Nell. Anyone else? No comments? Thank you, Yancy, very much. Look forward to
Thank you.
seeing this every year now, so that's great.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. And at this time, that concludes our staff reports. I would like to allow a speaker. I have a blue card here from Mariah Fisher, and I'd allow her, since we pulled item 13G, to let her speak now. And just for the public's, so we all know, my intention is about 8:30 to see if anyone here is at that time. You come on up. And they want to speak to this, they'll be allowed to do that as well. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for letting me speak. I want to just kind of change what I was going to say based on your decision this evening. I would like to see some consistency from the board as to when you decide to vote and not to vote. And maybe, because last time when we voted, or when you voted, excuse me, in June, to table AC, we had 2 board members missing that evening. So, just wondering if there can be some consistency regardless of what reasons people are missing the meeting. If people are missing, decide, have a plan in place that's regardless of why they're missing. Just some other thought. The other thing I wanted to say is a couple of teachers and I'm a teacher at San Jose Middle School. A couple of my colleagues and I have worked really hard this last week or during our summer to build momentum and try to get public support. People have been saying that they've been emailing you. I've seen some of the responses that they've received from you. I don't have the capacity to do that again in August. And so I want you to kind of take in the momentum that we had and recognize that some of us really spent some of our summer trying to make an impact on your vote tonight. And I have a brand new curriculum to plan in August, and I can't let AC be my priority. That has to be my priority. So I just want you to recognize that. The last thing, can I be unrelated to AC, or can I only talk about AC? Just some feedback on the logo, or can I not? Okay. On our campus, we have to provide our own printer, and we provide ourselves a black and white printer. So I would just encourage you to take a black and white copy of those color designs just to see what the teachers are going to be printing, just an idea. And that I feel like that would have been a great MSA project. I taught art at San Marin for 7 years, and we designed a band logo and for a woodworker, and they paid as a donation to the company, or a donation to my art department as their fee for us. And they were fabulous designs, and it was a really, really great project. And you have a lot of art teachers on your staff, and it would have been really great to look within for that. Just some feedback. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight, too. All right, let's go back to our first discussion action item, Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5141.52, Suicide Prevention. This is the second reading and final reading. Yvonne? Hi.
All right, thank you. So our last board meeting, we had our psychologist and behavioral health coordinator present and give the logistics, all the details that you see on the board cover sheet. So tonight, we're here to seek approval for the NUSD Youth Suicide Prevention Policy, which would make us compliant under the new Assembly Bill 2246, in which all school districts must have this new policy and plan. So tonight, we are asking the superintendent and staff are recommending approval of NUSD Board Policy 5141.42, as well as Administrative Regulation 5141.52.
All right, thank you. Trustees, any comment and/or motion? Trustee Aguilar?
So I was wondering about, I like this, and you guys have put a lot of work into it, and curious about the possibility of if things happen, because this is a document regarding crisis. If things happen and things need to be changed, that's a possibility. Correct?
Yes, of course.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Trustee Aguilar. First and a second, Trustee Mack, and all in favor? That passes 6. Yes, it is final reading. As I said, it passes 6. Is that all right, Trustee Miller? Okay, that passes 6 in favor and 1 absent.
Thank you.
On to item B, Board Policy Administrative Regulation and Exhibit 7325, San Marin High School Stadium Light and Public Access System. This is the second reading, and this is the second of 3. And this is Superintendent Hogaboom presenting.
So we'll be bringing this one back again, but just to make sure that we've had everybody's input into that. So I think tonight is just to ask if there's any other thoughts that you have about the ARs and the board policy for the San Marin High School Stadium lights.
Do you want to review any changes or anything? Okay. Trustees? Trustee Miller?
My apologies, I didn't get a chance to review it. Did we include the Gary Gates Field lights in the scope as talked about at the last meeting? And there are no lights on the baseball, hardball field, but I assume that area is included in it covers all of San Marin. Okay, good. I apologize for not being able to read it earlier before the meeting. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Nell.
Yeah, I just want to get some clarification on the board report. You have a bullet that talks about non-football games to end by 8 p.m. So I assume that means lacrosse or soccer but when I went through the ARs, I couldn't find, what I find is that's the goal, but essentially if we have an injury, we're gonna fulfill the obligation of whatever game we're playing. And wouldn't the North Coast section rules apply to any CIF sanctioned sport? So I just wanted to make sure that maybe it's the bullet point that's not right, but the AR is okay.
So the general gist of it, with a few exceptions, is that we want to try to have all the practices done by 7:30. The soccer games and the lacrosse games will start at 6, so we hope that those will be done by 8.
We hope.
And then the football games, the varsity games, will start at 7, and we hope they'll be done by 9. So that's the gist of how those kind of work. So getting the practices done earlier, the soccer and lacrosse games done by 8, and then the football games done by 9. So Derek, I'm sorry, what bullet, were you talking about the bullet and the board policy?
Yeah, it's actually the online report, the background.
Where are you? What page?
So I could, you know what, I don't have it.
Just on the cover?
But
you know what it is?
If you don't mind, I could, yeah, it's on the board cover is what he's referring to, but I think if you look on page 5 of 6 of the AR, and Derek, please correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
under number of soccer games, the second bullet, it says games start at 6 p.m. and will usually be completed by 8 p.m.
Right.
But
So-
then when you go to lacrosse, under page 6 of 6, and you look at that second bullet, it says games start at 6 and will be completed by 8 p.m. So there's some inconsistencies of our language there.
I think the soccer one is probably the correct one because
Right.
they're.
Yeah, we want to give a little.
Yeah.
We have to be open to circumstances beyond our control or agencies that have more authority than we do when it comes to this sort of thing. So, so
Thank you.
Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't even catch that because that was right at the page break on the lacrosse, or being two different things. So my point was, it seemed to say we were flexible, but the report said that we weren't. And so it is what the AR as amended is what we're going to be going forward with. Amending the lacrosse from being
It'll say the same thing, which
Yeah,
is
it'll say
will
the same
usually be completed by.
usually, that's the terminology, yeah. So with that said, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, good. Any other trustees, comments, questions? Okay, great.
Okay, so we'll bring back I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say I appreciate, it looked like I wanted a little clarification regarding the open space, and that was added too. So appreciate the changes the staff has made and look forward to the next
Yeah, we'll
iteration.
bring it back one more time in August.
So this is, right, first meeting in August, right?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, it's a discussion action item, and now if someone would like to make a motion. Trustee Butler. Trustee Nell, second. All in favor? That passes 6. The second reading passes, is approved. 6 in favor and 1 absent. All right. On to item C, approval and adoption of instructional materials for high school world language. Jennifer Larson, Coordinator of Secondary Instruction and Innovation. Welcome.
Thank you for having us tonight. This is Jeffrey Moore. He's one of our French teachers over at San Marin High School. He's going to be helping me present tonight, and he really has the meat of what this program and adoption is all about, but also how he hopes to see it impact not just his students, but the students in all world language classes here in NUSD. So our objective as a team is to provide students of NUSD with access to current and relevant materials and information. And as you know, a lot has been changing, not just with the state standards and curriculum requirements that the state has issued, but also with what we are looking at as district priorities. And so the coordination with our 6 Cs, the graduate profile, with PBL, and then also the integration of technology. And so with this, it's important to us that we're looking at programs that are going to meet all of those needs. To give you a little background before we go directly into the world language itself, the first thing we did this year was we kind of charted out what our adoption timeline was going to be. We have a great number of adoptions to do in the next several years, and based on the state's adoption timeline, we were able to create a timeline for NUSD that takes into account the making sure we have current materials for our students, but also that we are budgeting and have a long-term plan to ensure that we're able to do what we need to do to support our students. As you can see here, we are kind of midway through this, so we're looking at the 2017-18. As you know, we've been looking at science, and social studies has just come on board. So what we want to do is we want to look at what we have in place, what we're going to need in the future, and based on that, we created kind of a priority list or a timeline for ourselves to ensure that we have what we need. This is the bare bones or the beginning of our timeline for NUSD, and the highlighted section is what we really want to focus on tonight. As you'll see, the last world language adoption by the state was in 2009. Unfortunately, the last time NUSD adopted any curriculum for them was in 2004 and 2006, meaning that they have not adopted new curriculum since the state standards have changed. In addition, their next adoption is already on the calendar for 2020, so about 5 to 6 years out. So looking at this, we have to prioritize world language at this point because not only is it necessary, but we also don't want to put ourselves in a position where we are buying something for a couple of years only to turn it over again. So as a team, the world language, both Spanish and French, came together with the instruction team here at the district office, and we identified what the adoption criteria would look like. Obviously, we want alignment with state and national standards, a strong focus on cultural competency, technology integration, online platform for collaboration and communication. And this is one that's been key, but also very challenging to find in a innovative and meaningful way. We have a lot of online platforms, but a lot of them just look like iBooks, so it's a textbook online, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for students being able to collaborate and communicate with one another. So this program is very exciting because not only are they able to do that, but they're also able to interact and show their proficiency in the language that they're learning. So it's twice as beneficial for them. This is specifically aligned to project-based learning. There are project-based examples in the book and models for the teachers to look at, obviously, and refine as they need to. And then it's designed to prepare students for the AP courses. So ideally, we would have more students sticking with these languages and going on to AP 4 and 5, and hopefully earning their seal of biliteracy. Here is the specific process that our NUSD teachers went through. They started in November of 2016. You can see here the list of programs that they identified as potential programs. Once they went through and reviewed, they piloted, they analyzed, they made sure that it checked off all the boxes in our criteria. They were really left with one option that they all agreed on, and those are the two that were brought forward and researched in further depth, meaning they met with the representatives and the trainers from the company, made sure that what they had read about, what they had piloted, was in fact what was going to be included in this adoption. And here we are today, asking for approval to adopt this program for our world language teachers. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jeffrey. He's going to talk a little bit about what the program looks like and what kind of impact he hopes that it's going to have. And then I can certainly answer more questions about the specifics if there's anything you guys want to know about what actually comes with the subscription that we'll have and what that looks like.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi, great to be here. I was lucky enough to demo this book, which was acquired from an ACTFL, American Council for Teachers of Foreign Language convention that Dr. Deborah Levin from NHS and Claudia Coconubo both visited this convention last fall. And they found this textbook that not only were many schools around the country using, but why? And I think what we saw, what they came back with were these two examples of Que Chevere and Te Branché for the French and Spanish examples. And so what we tried to do in class this spring here was to try and demo a little bit. And so each unit contains 3 different lessons. And so I was able to try a sample lesson with my French 2 students. And those sophomores get kind of surly sometimes. And they were like, hey, you know what? This is actually pretty fun. And we're really, we feel like it's a bit more tailored to us. So what I noticed, a lot of the features of the textbook, I've taught here 7 years at San Marin with the same textbooks, Discovering French, but the actual material, not only the way it's presented, but it's actually tailored to what the students can do to use the material. And so what I typically have for students who end up having me for 2 to 4 years in French, for example, is, oh, I'd really like to work on my speaking even more now that I've gone through a couple of years. And this book, when they got done with the demo unit, they said this seemed to lend itself better to more proficiency, especially with the speaking and even more with the written part. What was really nice, one aspect, each unit includes some different PBL projects that are already in place, and that's already dovetailing with a lot of the initiatives here that the district has already set up. And the kids really seemed to like it. It really was hands-on, and they immediately were impressed with it, and that was impressive for me to see as well. So not only that, but I wanted to add one thing about the technology. Some of them were able to use their phones with it, and they said, you know, sometimes we just have these kind of review quizzes or tests that we're able to access with the old textbook. But this was actually more interactive, where we're able to communicate with each other via different platforms on digital media. And that was really great to see, because I'd like to see us going more in that direction. So, thanks.
Excellent.
All right, one of the exciting parts about this program is it really models what we're looking for in some of our other adoptions moving forward in the digital world. And so this is going to be a good way for us to gauge what that looks like. In saying that, this program we're going to be opting for digital only for our freshmen, because they're going to be rolling out the 9th grade 1-to-1. Because it's just the ninth graders who will be digital only, it'll give us an idea of how successful a digital only platform works. So with this, the students will get an iBook. They'll have the textbook. They'll have access actually to the textbooks 1 through 4, so all of the levels. But in addition, they will have an interactive platform for just about everything. So workbooks, writing prompts, the PBL lessons, the communication within their classes, within the larger community. And then even one of the things I was really impressed with was even a regular update of current events from the culture or from the countries that they're studying. So they're actually reading and studying current events that are happening in the moment. So a real meaningful way to be looking at culture. Having said that, what we're proposing is a 2-year rollout. It would look something like this. As you can see, we have a significant number of students in world language, so there is a significant cost to this program. It is a 6-year subscription, so this would cover the cost of us having this program for 6 years, which brings us to the next adoption date. So timing is pretty lined up. Phase 1 would be French 1 through 4, all of French. As you can see, we have much smaller numbers in French. We would be able to handle that. In addition, the number of textbooks that we would be getting when we do the French 2 through 4, which will be a text and digital platform, they'll get the physical textbooks, would be the same as if we had just done digital, because with the digital only, they get a classroom set for the teachers. So they will have, when we do go 1-to-1 with everyone, they'll be able to hold on to those class sets of books, and we won't need additional copies in the future. So we would do French 1 through 4, and then all of Spanish 1, because that's who's going to have the rollout. We do know there's a handful of students who are going to be in Spanish 1 that are not freshmen. Again, we'll have class sets for every teacher, and so those are the textbooks that we would be using for those students who need to take it home. But we would be able to have devices, as you said, they can access it online on their phones if there's extra Chromebooks in the classroom, or they can use the textbooks, so they'll definitely have access. Having said that, that would be approximately 465 students for next year at the cost of $85,323. Next year in phase 2, assuming that goes well and the digital platform is successful, then we would go digital only for the 2, 3, and 4, which is 740 more students approximately, for the final price of $146,705. That is the proposal that we have at this time based on the budget that we know that we have available and the adoptions that we have coming up. But I'm certainly excited to hear your questions and your thoughts about what we've got proposed here.
Thanks, Jen, very much. That's exciting. And thank you for coming as well. Trustees?
Do we add those two numbers together? The $2 amount?
For the 2 years?
Yes, I could tell you that it is somewhere in the neighborhood of 235,000.
I just want to make sure I understood what you'd said. Okay.
Yes, yes. So over 2 years, we'd be a little over 200,000.
Trustee Nell?
My questions were kind of around who is EMC and how do they accredited? You mentioned there was an acronym that was put up earlier.
ACTFL, it's the American Council for Teachers of Foreign Language, ACTFL.
Okay, so this, I mean, it looks great. I mean, the assessments look very impressive, and as far as the accreditation part goes, I'm just going to assume that this is good stuff, and we're not going to have problems with the UC system or something like that along the line. And I couldn't help but notice that Texas had its own version.
Possibly, I see Florida too.
So I figured, I wonder what they had to write into that curriculum, but. Nonetheless, I just want, I had not heard of this publisher.
EMC, they specialize in very few. So world language, business services, some technology. And so we don't see them for things like language arts, science, our big adoptions. But because they're so specialized, they have a very good reputation in the areas that they support. A lot of their textbooks are also used at the college level, especially in the business areas. But because of their focus on technology and world language, they have some great products.
Okay, I appreciate those assurances.
Thank you, Trustee Nell. Anyone else? Comments? No? I'm happy to see this coming forward. It sounds like it's long overdue. And was there any, the only question I really had was sometimes software platforms like this look really good on the surface, and you find in a year or two that, nah, it really wasn't that great, and we're not able to use it, and it's not being well received. Was there any other option other than 6-year contract?
There is. We can do an annual. We can do a 1 year, and that would be an option for us to try it for 1 year and see how it goes. But it is a significant difference in cost, meaning the price would go up for that year. But other than the 1 year, it's either kind of a 1 year or a 6-year commitment. And really, we can do either. It's just a matter of what our budget allows for and the commitment that our teachers have.
So what's a significant difference?
I'd have to go back and look at what that is. It was multiple thousands of dollars, but I will certainly go back and look at what that looks like on a big picture, and I can come back to you with that
Just a
information.
thought. I mean, I'm willing to take your recommendation, I think.
My additional question was around the opportunity in the 9th grade to test our ability to teach with online media. I'm excited about that. I think it's nice that we have sort of a one classroom. We're going to see this, and we all can focus on it. Do we have any, is this publisher large enough, or I'm trying to think of the right words, will we have any influence on their ability to produce material to us? Are we a really small player for them, or do we matter, or are they going to listen to us, or what's
I think they're a well-established publisher, and I think the program is fairly well-established, and Jeff might be able to talk a little bit more to some of the districts that he knows are using it. Are you talking about how much influence do we have in changing how the program works?
Yeah, there's 2 phases when you bring in a new tool. One is you're important to them, and they'll help you solve your problem because you're an important customer. The other is it's mature enough that you go down to the dealership and you buy yourself a Toyota, and it's good enough because you're the 100 millionth purchaser of the same car, and all the bugs have already been worked out.
That's great.
It's sort of 2 models.
They've reassured us anyway, in order to have not only kind of an initial training on all the materials that they'd have, but it's also ongoing. And so in meeting with them this spring, we'd met once, and then we'd met once again towards the end of school. It's been nothing but supportive as far as their depth of support. And EMC has quite a reputation going back. It's at least 20 years old as far as in this particular area with foreign languages. And so I've been teaching French for 20 years at both the high school and collegiate level, and they always have the best. It's great respect for their products right there.
Okay.
And
Thank you for your recommendation.
That's great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Good, thanks.
Anyone else? Trustee Aguilar?
I was going to also add to that, all of the trainers are previous world language teachers, which is not common to find. And so I know that our teachers felt very comfortable with the group who is working with them for that reason. They have a great deal of experience in this specific field.
Great. Trustee Aguilar?
Bonsoir. Je voudrais voter oui.
Parlez-vous français aussi?
Oui. Yes. So I just made a motion.
No, you didn't.
I did.
You need to make it in English.
Je voudrais voter oui à faveur. I would like to vote, make the motion for this.
Vous êtes très joli.
Oui, same.
Okay,
bien?
so we have a first. I'll take a second. Trustee Nell. And I have a question. One more question. Or a comment. I'm really happy that because of the close proximity to the next adoption, that we're doing the subscription. It seems to make perfect sense from that standpoint completely.
Good.
So, thank you. I have a first and a second. All in favor? That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you, Jen. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Passez un bonsoir.
Bonsoir, merci. Au revoir, merci à vous.
And let's see, our next one is an item D, which is the 2718 Local Control and Accountability Plan, the LCAP, in other words. And Yvonne will be presenting in this. Just to remind everyone, this was presented on the 6/13 as a public hearing, and I'm assuming nothing's changed since then.
That is correct. Nothing has changed since last week during the public hearing. So tonight, we're seeking approval from the board for the 2017-18 Local Control Accountability Plan, also known as the LCAP. Based on no public comments, no changes were needed. Once the board approves a plan, we will then have the entire document, all 94 pages, translated to Spanish. And just so you know, the LCAP, as you know, is a little over 83 million to run our district. So the superintendent and staff recommend approval of the 2017-18 LCAP.
All right, trustee Miller,
So moved.
second. Trustee Butler, all in favor? That passes 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is item E, adopt resolution. It's asking to adopt a resolution number 37-2016-17, establishing a revolving cash checking account. And our Assistant Superintendent Yancey Hawkins will be here.
All right. Thank you, President Cooper. This is a pretty standard procedure for districts to have a revolving cash account. The district already has a board policy regarding this. And so I'm just bringing in a resolution noting that staff would like to do this. This is very helpful, especially when dealing with payroll-related things when we need to get a check right away. And usually it's for potentially hours worked for an employee that somehow didn't get through, or those kind of emergency situations, and we don't have 2 or 3 days. Also, when we are, for whatever reason, letting go an employee, it's important to be able to give them a check on that day and not have them have to come back and get that. So this also could be for any other emergency. We have controls in place. This is for $25,000, which is well under the 2% allowable by Ed Code. But I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this.
All right, thank you. Board members, questions, comments?
So I assume the reports for the actual check registers will come forward just like every other check register does for board approval in the consent agenda regularly.
Yes, so that will come through as we keep the fund at $25,000. We will do a general fund check into there explaining exactly what it was for.
Okay. I'll move approval, Mr. President, if you're ready for a motion.
Okay, I'll take that at first. Trustee Miller, second. Trustee Nelwood. And any further comment, questions? I have one comment or question rather. Two. One is, we haven't done this in the past. It's something new. Is this commonplace in the of the 19 or now 18 school districts in Marin County?
Yes, almost all school districts have this. We have a board policy, which actually noted at some point in the past that we passed a similar resolution, but I haven't been able to come back and find out that. So it may have just been a CSBA policy that we approved. But this is commonplace in almost every district that I've worked in. And like I said, the biggest area that it helps us is with our employees, and it's just important to be able to to pay our employees. And if there's obviously one of the biggest things about the business department is getting our employees paid in a timely manner for the work that they've performed.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you for that explanation. And then we have a first and a second. All in favor? That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent. All right, moving right along, we're on to item F, which is approve the 27-18 proposed general fund budget. And just as a reminder to the trustees that this also was a public hearing last week on the 13th. And Yancey, you're presenting that.
Thank you. As Yvonne noted, this came forward last week. The numbers in the budget are the same as they were last week. Just a couple items I wanted to note based on some questions that the board had asked at the last meeting. One was around updated enrollment projection. My recommendation will be that come back in the fall, winter of 2019. 2018, a year from now, when our study, I think, is a good time to bring that back. The other trustee Nell asked some additional questions about the Budget Advisory Committee. Myself and Assistant Superintendent Koska will be working together on that. We will come together after the beginning of the year, starting in early September, with recommendations, hopefully by the end of calendar 2017. And we are still working on the makeup of that committee, and I will give the trustees an update when we have more information on that. But I wanted to get back to the trustees on their question with that. Other than that, this is the same budget that we saw on the 13th meeting, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Very well, thank you, Yancey. Trustee Miller will start us off.
Thank you. Yancey and your staff, thank you very much. People don't understand just exactly how hard you have to work as the state of California keeps changing their mind and updating their guesses, and you guys have to keep responding to the circumstances that you're handed. So first and foremost, thank you very much, and all of your staff for the hard work that goes into this every year. This year's no different, I know. And I've, other things come up that you and I have had a couple of conversations, and I know this is the most important thing to do, is get this done, and I just want to acknowledge that. The second is for all of us to remember that this is a budget that uses our reserves in order to get us balanced, and we are eating our reserves in this budget, and we have some very hard work to do over the next year, and our staff will help in that regard. We're gonna have to work as a team to solve some problems, but this is where we are, and with that, those are my comments, sir.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Miller. Anyone else? Trustee No?
Just echo Trustee Millerick's comments. Appreciate the work that you're doing, and it just sort of again emphasizes for me the future planning that we have to do. So our Budget Advisory Committee that you're convening is of the utmost importance, and I hope that you will keep us posted as that progresses. I know you talked about the makeup to be identified, but also I think a timeline would be helpful as soon as possible as to when you think recommendations might actually be coming back to the board, formally or informally. And then finally, I was wondering if we're approving the EPA, and I don't mean the Environmental Protection Agency, but that has to do with the people of California who, through Proposition 55, agreed to raise their taxes for education, and that is a resolution that either we were going to pass it or it was in the consent agenda. It was consent agenda, so it's also a big part of the budget. But I just wanted to maybe have you explain that, the purpose of its inclusion and why we have to do it, and how we decided we were going to allocate those funds.
So I want to say this in a nice way to the state. The EPA dollars were started as, and EPA stands for Educational Protection Account. And it sounded like this grand thing that was wonderful. It started out in Proposition 30, which I believe was 2012, and it was part of the increase that was the sales tax increase, as well as the increase on the top earners in California, 3% increase to them. It's important to note that Prop 30 and then Prop 55, which is the extension of the large chunk of Proposition 30 revenues, which require this EPA, were not additional funding for schools. They were, in all intents and purposes, a threat made at the state level that the governor put Proposition 30 on the ballot in 2012 and said, if this is not passed, we will do major mid-year cuts to education. Now, part of the requirement is to use these funds separately, but as these were not additional funds that were coming to the school district, they were simply funds that had been given and quote unquote, they were a cut that didn't happen. These weren't additional funds that the district was allowed to budget for. So one of the notes is that we have to do these, it's part of the legislation, as the Proposition 30 was passed, that we were required to do this. And it's also required that no administrative salaries or are being paid. So most districts in the state fund teachers out of this account, which is what we do. And obviously, I think that meets the criteria. I think the big thing to note is both Proposition 30 and both Proposition 55, while I'm very happy, and we're very happy that they passed because they did avoid large cuts, it's important to note to the community, those weren't additional fundings. These weren't funding that was made to have adequate school funding. This was to avoid large cuts to education. So it's important document in the sense of, it meets our requirement under Proposition 30 to get a large chunk of funds from the state. But it's a little bit disingenuous that these were additional funds in that they were funds above and beyond what would have been cut. So they were funds that were year over year funds. Sorry, that was a little detailed, but.
Well, I appreciate your position as the chief financial officer to identifying that they're not additional funds. I think in addition to recognizing that it's also sort of a guarantee to taxpayers that these dollars are going to be spent the way that the taxpayers were told they were. And in this particular case, these are committed funds to teacher salaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think whenever we're talking about the taxpayers and the school boards and the state's commitment to teacher salaries with all the fuss over pensions and everything, I think the guarantees are there that their salaries are a number one focus, and this is evidence of that.
It is.
So I just want to point that out, that inside all the black and white numbers here, what you're describing as not a cut or additional funds, but a large portion of the revenue we receive is guaranteed directly to go to fund teacher salaries.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Trustee Noel. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Then I would entertain a motion to approve. Okay. Let me rephrase that. It's be a little more specific. I would accept a motion to approve the 2017-18 proposed general fund budget. And I saw a hand. Trustee Nell was first, Mac a second. All in favor? Passes 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, Yancey. Yep. Now, I just wanted to, we're up to item G now, and I want to give, I said I would do this, it's a little bit late, but not much. I wanted to give anyone who wanted to talk, we did pull item G, so is there anyone here? I don't see anyone, but just to make double sure that wanted to speak to this, I'm going to give them that opportunity now. Not seeing any blue cards. In addition, we're going to move on. I do want to comment once again that this has been pulled. If you're listening at home, it's been pulled and it's been put on the August 8th agenda meeting. So we'll look forward to seeing you all there. And then we're on to item H, review and approve the proposed food and nutrition services student meals price increase. And Miguel and Yancey both.
Thank you very much. So every 3 to 5 years, as costs increase, it's necessary to increase the cost of the fully paid meal for the breakfasts and lunch for our students. It's important to note that the last increase was in 2012-13, which was 5 years ago. And one thing that's important to note around the food service department is the food service department's employees are members of the CSEA unit and negotiate along with our regular employees. And while there's a fairly big difference between the work they do around that department, because the food service department acts a lot like a restaurant or any other food entity, whereas schools are increased by state funding, and the general fund is by that. So it's important to note over the last 5 years that compensation for our employees in this unit have increased in total compensation approximately 20%. And leading to, did you say 64%? 64% of the costs in the department is labor cost. So a lot of this is due to the increased, as well as simple inflation on our foods stuffs. With that, if Miguel wants to add anything, or I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Miguel, do you want to?
Sorry, one additional item. This doesn't obviously impact our students on the free and reduced meal plans. The free meals are still free, and the district in the LCAP still includes $40,000 to pick up the cost for the reduced students. So both our free and reduced students have both their breakfast and lunch paid for. So this does not impact those. It only impacts the paid students.
All right, thank you. Miguel, did you want to add anything, and then we'll bring it back to the board?
The only thing that I want to add is that with new regulations and, with the right intent from the feds in terms of having kids eat more fresh fruits and veggies, one of the requirements is that every student pick up either a fresh fruit or a veggie. So we've noticed, not only here in Nevada, but around the nation, an increased cost in those products. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but just know that before, that was an option. Kids had an option of taking the fruit or taking the veggie. Now it's mandatory. It has to be on their tray. We're working really hard on making sure that the kids are not only picking it up, but as you know, consuming it, because it's not nutritional as they consume that. Mm-hmm. So we've seen an increase in our produce prices, cost, because of that reason. And let me see what else that I want to point out to you. I think that was Yancey mentioned all the other things in terms of labor. We've got old equipment that is, our schools we are renovating them, but until we get there, we've got equipment that's been around for a long time. So we've got to budget that, and sometimes we need refrigerators and we need software, and refrigerators, I guess, more than software, but we've got to store that our produce.
All right. Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
That's great. Trustees, bring it back to you. Any questions or concerns? Trustee Aguilar, you're first, and then Trustee.
Yeah. As I was reading this, I noticed you're planning on doing a new system to measure how many people are partaking of the meals, or not. And so, would that be part of assisting you with that?
Well, we have that in place. Actually, we're going to expand that by having the menus available on cell phones, so students can download, parents can download their information. It's going to give us some good information as well, in terms of kids can reply back to us, families can reply back to us as well, in terms of different items that we're serving on the menu. Mm-hmm. So we want that feedback's very important to us.
And so that's going to help with that. This increase will help with that process.
Not necessarily. Not that the increase will help with that, but it will offset costs, general costs of the food service program. Costs that we've had over the last 5 years that we haven't.
And do we still have that issue with a problem with the kids not eating, leaving a lot of food behind, or is that getting better?
That's something that is getting better just because of the these new program that we're putting in, the wellness in the schools, where we're actually going into a school and we're helping educate the kids about the foods that they're eating. We're connecting it back to the cafeteria, and we're connecting it back to their home as well. So we've seen, more kids participate in our program. But more importantly, we've seen more kids eating fresh fruits and veggies than we've ever seen before. So we, in our district, we've seen a twofold. It's mandatory, but we also have kids wanting to take more spinach and wanting to take more veggies and so forth, which is good.
One last question.
Sure.
So are parents still having a choice whether to, with the increase or without the increase? Parents are still having a choice whether
they want to participate in our program or not. That's
and
correct.
our students that are hungry or in need, or they will be able to continue with those services.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Nothing changes. It's like you said. It's really an option. It's been an option all along for our paid parents.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve the price increase for 2017 to 18 to $75,000.
Okay, do you want to just take the language off maybe the agenda, or do you?
Okay, to approve the increase in the students' full price meals cost. Is that better?
That's
Okay.
better, I think, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I have a first, and I think, let me see if I have a second. Trustee Millerick, and then Trustee Nell, I know you had a comment.
Yeah, Miguel, it's good to see you. It's appreciate the work that you do, and if it wasn't for the work that you do, we wouldn't be nationally recognized as a food health conscious district, and been around long enough to recognize that there's been some serious changes about our students taking what they eat more seriously, and I think you're to be accredited for that. So wanted to point that out. I also think, the district has a long history of supporting food in our district. We would like to see that our kids can eat when they're hungry. And so, we're talking about the budget previously, and it isn't the expectation, to my knowledge, with this board that you have to be a profit center or even break even. I think that traditionally we want to be in a position to contribute to the program or the services, and so I think we want to continue along those lines. It's like a budget is a choice. So when we are setting aside funds for students who could eat, or whether it's going to be a special program here or salaries for employees we're brought up, or anywhere else, it's when we're divvying up the money, we got to make tough choices. And I just want to say that, in my opinion, when we take money out of our general fund and spend it on something like your department, that's a good thing, and I'm proud that we're doing that. But over time, I recognize things can catch up to us. Our own employees, they too have to eat, et cetera. So, I support the increase, but I just wanted to recognize you and point out that it's okay to need the money to do a good thing, and we're happy to support you.
Thank you.
Miguel, I just wanted to add, or echo Trustee Nell's comments. You're to be commended for your leadership here in this district for many, many, many years. I'm also supportive of this increase. I would say, it's been something that we've paid into. It's been something that the district has helped subsidize basically, and I think food costs have continually gone up, and I think it's appropriate that we have a small increase. So I think it's small. I think it's in line. So we have a first and a second, and all in favor. That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're going to go on to item I, approval for Novato Charter School to make improvements to the district-owned premises, and Yancey Hawkins once again will present.
All right, thank you. I keep going.
Doing so good.
Thank you. So the Novato Charter School, as we've noted in the past, is applying for certain the Proposition 51 funds that are available. They put in 2 applications, one that we feel has a decent chance of going through. And then another one that's really more of a long shot, which is this one, which is a multi-purpose room, and it would be an upgrade to that facility. In order to do that, our agreement with the facilities agreement with them, requires us to give them permission to do any changes to the property, and they can't be considered for this potential funding unless we do that. I want to be clear, though, that there's two things that this very specifically we would note in our letter to them around this funding. The first is that if the charter school ever moved or for whatever reason, was no longer in business, that those facilities would revert to the district. And the second is that this, because the state would put in a portion of the cost, and this is a split funding, that we are not making at this point any commitment to financially. This is to let them go through the process. I want to be clear that there is a scoring system on this, and we actually saw their scoring from the state. They scored 42 out of a top possible 110 points. That doesn't say anything about the charter school. They're running a wonderful program. It says about the process of how they score, and the biggest chunk of it, 60 points, is their free and reduced population, which a lot of charter schools in the state have a much higher free and reduced population than they do. So they need this to move forward with that. But with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Board members, Trustee Miller, you were first, and then Trustee.
Hey, thanks.
No.
A couple of questions. Does the construction have to be approved by DSA?
Absolutely. Any
Okay.
construction would have to be approved by DSA.
So it's on school property we own, but nonetheless school property, and it's serving children, so they have the same DSA standards in terms of quality of construction and earthquake issues and all that we would here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? That's a great point. We will put in the letter that any buildings would have to be Field Act compliant and thus have to go to DSA. They would anyways, but I think it's important to put that in the letter to them. Thank you. That's a great point.
So just make sure, because if it ever reverts to us, we have this, I'd hate to have it revert to us, then have to tear it down because it's not compliant, which I'm sure they wouldn't want a building that wouldn't be appropriate for the children of Novato to occupy. So I think that's just a good extra measure. In terms of our bond measure, which we've just passed, there are provisions in bond language, in the rules that we passed the bond under, that some of those funds are shared with a charter school by some rule. And I believe we had counsel advise us before we put the bond before the public on what those rules were. So have you looked at those funds and the possible way we can collaborate with the charter school to make sure that they have the best chance possible to serve those kids?
Yeah, we will. So the bond language would give us the board discretion around what projects they want to fund. But this potentially could, a portion of these funds could come from the bonds. But it's important to note that there's other funds currently being allocated to the charter school under the bond, and so that might have to be moved. But yeah, we've worked with legal counsel around making sure that we have the flexibility to support their needs now and in the future.
Yeah, so I want to protect our interests. The taxpayers' interests are 12 campus interests and also the charter school interest, and the legal counsel has given us advice in that regard. So as long as you're talking to legal counsel, that's really my question. Are we following the rules we set for ourselves going forward? And it sounds like you're right on top of it.
We are. We've spoken to bond counsel.
Good, okay. And I think that's it, as long as, as long as if they go out of, and I guess the final issue is if you said the provisions are if they go out of business or cease to exist, it reverts to us. Review that language to make sure that they can't assign it to some other entity, that some follow-on entity to make, non-transferable, I think is the words I'm thinking of. But just review it to make sure that we're continuing to deal with the charter school as we know it, and they can't make some assignment, and our attorneys can give you better advice than I can. I just want to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Trustee No? Interesting.
So thank you for sending out the additional information this afternoon. Got to look at that, and I didn't expect us to be handicapping their chances, but nonetheless, what I think we want to be in a position is to support them in what they want to do, and I think it's fine moving ahead with giving them authority, whatever, to apply for the grant or whatever. But what I'm more concerned about is, what is this building and where is it going to be? And in the event that things don't, if they do get the grant and they move ahead, it's described as a modular building on a slab, and I'm like, well, where's the slab going to be, and what kind of building are we talking about? And I thought that information might be more prevalent at this point, but is it really more? They're just applying for the money and what it's for, but there's no actual physical plans in place?
There are very limited. There's not a large requirement around what you need to turn in to apply for the funds.
Okay.
Once all have been scored and the funding letters have gone out, it comes into now, because the state, in a lot of ways, as long as you check a couple boxes, doesn't necessarily care what you're building. As long as it's within. So they don't, and they also want to encourage charter schools to apply for this funding, so they don't require a lot of upfront design work. We've actually had our construction management firm, Greystone West, out there to review them, to help them, and to help them through this process, as you noted, to support them. And although we were handicapping them, we are supportive of them moving forward do this, because to the extent that we can leverage funds for our schools or for the charter school, I think that is important. But as they move forward through this process, if they are approved, they will require significant additional drawings, including the exact location of where the building would be. They basically have basic square footage of what this would be and a basic use of the facility, and a very tentative budget of what that would cost. And they noted it around a slab, I believe, slab on grade modular construction, not a portable, but a modular construction of a multi-purpose room.
Yeah, and just in case anyone, I didn't mean handicapping them in the sense of holding them back from the grant. I meant setting the odds.
That's what I meant.
Their
Yes.
chances
Thank
of
you.
actually achieving the reward. Vegas,
lottery.
right? That's what I. Yeah. So I think for me, it's as Trustee Miller pointed out, like, we don't want to build something that might have to be torn down because it wasn't built right. I'm concerned about having to tear something down because it's in the wrong place or it's not going to work out for us in the long run. So I have, I got mixed feelings about this. I want them to succeed, but I just wish we would be at a point where we'd have a lot further understanding about what it is they're talking about and where it is they're talking about. And
So if this funding would be approved and by the state level, and then a next step of if they can find other funding, whether that be from donations or some from the district or whatever it is, more of that would come back before we give the final approval of where they would put that building and making sure that it would work for the whole district moving forward. That would come back to the trustees before any of that would happen. Basically, to be honest, it's a very hopeful that that not enough charter schools would apply.
okay, well, with the further information, and I'm prepared to support the recommendation. So.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Millerick first, Mac is second, and Greg, you have a comment.
Just possible suggestion on how to word the letter in hearing, because I have the same concerns that it could be a building that's actually a liability to us, that when they leave, in the old days, maybe it had asbestos in it. And maybe it costs more to abate than for us to, we just don't want to get anywhere near it. So maybe we put in some sort of a language that we have the option to own it, we have the option to tear it down, and if it is to be torn down, it's at their cost, something like that. I mean, I fully support this idea because I think they need this, but at the same time, I'm looking out 40, 50 years from now when there's some decrepit building there perhaps that nobody wants to touch, and I really don't want the district getting stuck with that. That's all.
I'll work with legal counsel to draft the letter to make sure that it supports their needs, but it also protects the district.
All right, any other trustees, comments? No? Okay. We have a first and a second. I'll take a vote. All in favor? That passes 6, well, sorry? 6 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you very much. And next item is item J, approve resolution number 39-2016-17 to decrease the number of classified employees due to lack of work and or lack of funds. Chris Costco, our Assistant Superintendent of HR, will present. Hello.
Yeah, thank you for having me tonight. These are always difficult discussions to have. They impact our employees' lives. We take these conversations very seriously. At the end of years, we have to ask our school sites and programs to review their programs to make sure that all the staffing is in line with the best practices, serving the students in the best possible way. And there are times when the funds are used, principals decide to use funds in a different way. And that's the case at Loma Verde. Due to the shrinking of site budgets, although at minimal, it affects the ability of Loma Verde to continue to operate a program that involves some of the instructional assistants on their campus. So due to lack of funds, we're requesting that those 3 instructional assistant positions be eliminated. They account for a combined 0.4 FTE. So less than 1 half-time person. Additionally, with the move of Ready, Set, Grow to the Rancho campus, we feel like there's insufficient work for a second office manager on that campus that used to support the program when they were isolated on the Hill campus. So our recommendation is to eliminate that position. That is a 1.0 FTE position. We will work closely with our partners in CSEA. We actually have a meeting scheduled next week where we'll talk about the impacts, the effects of these reductions, make sure that we are treating these affected employees with all the rights that they have available, being as respectful as we can, trying to find the best solutions as we can, given that this is obviously a difficult process. So with that in mind, I open up the floor to any questions or comments you might have.
Board, thank you very much, Chris. Board, questions, comments? Okay. I have a first, Trustee Millerick, second. Trepidation. And I appreciate your comments, and that's exactly, these are hard decisions to make, and I feel bad that we're doing it. Unfortunately, we've got some decisions to make. Can you tell me if we're consolidating office managers, essentially, is the one that's at Rancho now, is that person able to pick up the entire load?
Yes, we believe she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? I have a first, Trustee Mack.
So this on the instructional aid side of things, obviously this is centered on Loma Verde. I'm just wondering, is it just a matter of time before we're seeing this on other campuses? Why Loma Verde is kind of the only one? If you can kind of give me a little background on that.
I think this is only my second year here. Last year it was San Ramon. This year it's Loma Verde. It's a trend that you see across the state and across the country, is a reduction of instructional assistant hours in classrooms. there are still places that truly believe in that model and live that model, and there's a lot of other districts that have decided to go away from that model. I'm not saying we have gone away from that model, but there have been some principals that have reprioritized their spending.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. I have a first, trustee Miller. Second, trustee Mack. And all in favor of this? That passes, unfortunately, 6 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Approve employee agreements, item K. Approve employee agreements for district assistant superintendents, human resources, business and operations, and education services. And Chris Koska, you're still
right.
here.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you again. Each year, all contracts for contracted employees must come before the board in open session. In this case, we're bringing the 3 assistant superintendent position contracts to the board. So that's assistant superintendent of human resources, education services, and then business services. These are 12-month employment agreements for each of these classifications. And the only changes to the contracts are increases as outlined in the either classified manager salary schedule or certificated manager salary schedule. The contract does allow for future salary increases should any negotiated agreements occur with either the certificated management group or the classified management group. It would be similar to what's received by members of those groups. Any questions?
Thanks, Chris. Questions, trustees, comments? No? Shaking heads? No? Okay, a motion? Okay, trustee Mack and trustee Aguirre is the second. And all in favor? That passes 6 in favor and 1 absent. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. I thought maybe I'd pick the wrong night to shave and you guys might not
I know.
approve the contract. So thank you.
It's that summer look, I think. All right, we're on to item L, and I guess I'm presenting this. So item L is the approval of employment agreement for the district superintendent, and you all have in front of you on the table a pink copy, which is the amendment of employment agreement for district superintendent. And I just kind of want to run through and kind of review kind of the process and how his original contract and so on. So I've got some notes I'm going to read. On behalf of the board, I'm presenting information about the superintendent's evaluation and the amendment to his contract. To reach our goals of equity, student success, staff success, and community involvement and engagement, we've set these goals for our superintendent. The objective of this agenda item is to report on the annual board evaluation of the superintendent's performance and amend the superintendent employment agreement according to the provisions of that agreement. In the background, just a little bit, we all know this, but just for public information for the public, Superintendent Hogaboom was hired on July 1st, 2015, and has completed his 2nd year of his current contract, which does expire June 30th, 2020. So it's a 4-year maximum of 4 years in term, and so what we're doing this year is, because it's a maximum of 4, the employment agreement between the superintendent and the board provides that the board conduct, and I'm just summarizing again, an annual evaluation of the superintendent's performance no later than July 31st of each year. So we've done this earlier this year, earlier than that, obviously, and it gives the superintendent, he was hopeful that we could do that, and we can, and he's going to be getting right to work on all these goals. And so the board has completed its evaluation and concluded that the superintendent's performance in 2016-17 was satisfactory. underscored. If the superintendent's performance is satisfactory or better, the expiration date may be extended 1 year to June 30th of 2021. The amendment to this, which now we'll refer to this document you have, the amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement contains this recommendation, and that's the new expiration date. And that's included in tonight's meeting documents. The superintendent's employment agreement also allows for an increase in a minimum by the same increase given to other certificated management. Because negotiations are ongoing, we're not including any language about any increases in compensation at this time. The board may bring this forward in the form of an addendum to this addendum at a later date. So far, so good? Okay. Just as a reminder that this is a personnel matter, so public discussion needs to be limited, and I think I've touched on all the important items, the timelines, and kind of what we've done, and it's definitely a satisfactory evaluation, and happy that Jim's here and the dedication that he's given this district. And I wanted to thank you for all the great work here. With that, I'm going to thank you for allowing me to speak a little bit. And I have a first to approve this. Superintendent's, let me make sure I get this right. The approval of the employment agreement for extension for district superintendent. I have a first and a second, Trustee Mack, and all in favor? That passes 7 in favor, 6 in favor, 1 absent, sorry.
Wow, we're under.
And thank you very much. And, yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
Everything. Thank you. And that concludes our meeting for this evening. We will see you here on August 8th for our next regularly scheduled board meeting. And meeting is adjourned.